We're going to start off with an old friend, a longtime friend of Missouri Farm Bureau Governor Mike Parson. Mike was sworn in as Missouri's 57th governor on June 1st. He came into the role of governor with a commitment to serving others, and we've seen that as he's assumed that role as governor. He's got 30 years of experience in public service. He previously served as the 47th Lieutenant Governor of Missouri. He served the people of the 28th Senatorial District, the Missouri Senate, from 2011 to 2017, served in the House of Representatives from 2005 to 11. He served as sheriff of Polk County. He served 6 years in the U.S. Army. What a tremendous record of service from our governor. While in the Missouri Senate, Governor Parson chaired the Small Business, Insurance, and Industry Committee, and he served as Majority Whip. While serving in the House of Representatives, he was chair of the House Rules Committee. He sponsored and co-sponsored several land park legislation, including the Missouri Farming Rights Amendment, a piece of legislation that changed the Missouri Constitution to guarantee all Missourians the right to farm and ranch. We're grateful for his leadership on improving Missourians' access to affordable broadband. Together, we are making a difference. We work closely with members of the governor's cabinet, especially Director of Agriculture Chris Chin. She and her team doing a great job of leading that department. Governor Parson makes his home in Bolivar with his wife Teresa, 2 grown children, 5 grandchildren, and I don't know about you all, but I really enjoy seeing pictures of his grandchildren on Facebook and social media. He was raised on a farm in Hickory County and graduated from Wheatland High School. He's a small business owner and a 3rd-generation farmer who currently owns and operates a cow-calf operation near Bolivar. Please help me welcome Governor Mike Parson.
Thank you very much, and please be seated. Please be seated. Man, what an honor it is to be here as your 57th governor, to be in front of you today. I just can't tell you how much that means to me. And Teresa's not with me today. She's back in Jefferson City working today, but I about quit bringing her on the road anyhow. Because every time I do introduce her as the First Lady of the state of Missouri, she's starting to get louder applause than I am. So I'm really working on that to get over that. But I want to thank everybody. Blake, thank you for the introduction. And for the members of Farm Bureau, thank you for what you stand for, what you do for across the state of Missouri, and frankly, what you do for our nation and the example we set. Needless to say, I'm so proud to be a farmer, to represent you as the governor of the state of Missouri. It's been a long time since that occurred. And just to share some insight into you, there's a lot of times I have meetings throughout the day with dignitaries, different kinds of people across the state. And one of the things I've noticed a lot, people always ask about farming. They ask us what it's like to be a farmer. And it's a great opportunity for me to be able to talk about who we are, what we represent in the state of Missouri, and truly to tell them about the heart and soul of who I believe we are in this state. So it's a great honor to do that. And I also just want to tell you, the first 6 months of, if you can imagine, I don't know what it's like, but I think I do now. If you can imagine just strapping on a rocket, that's kind of what it's been for 6 months, it seems like, for me. I was just thinking about that coming up and talking to you the last time was as lieutenant governor that I spoke to you, and did not think I would be here today in this capacity. But when I think of just the things that have happened in a short period of time and how you actually played a part in that, from my first few days in office that we had to approve a $28 billion budget. We had to pass legislation, sign the bills of legislation to law, to appoint a lieutenant governor, to do all the things that go along with trying to start up an administration. And lo and behold, Mother Nature takes its course. And the first thing out of the chute was a drought. So the good thing about that was, and I'm going to talk about that a little later in my remarks, but the good thing about that is I felt like being a farmer, I had an advantage because I knew getting out in front of that was going to be key, and I started seeing that develop as a farmer myself. So there was an advantage to that, and a lot of things happened there, but anyhow, and here we are today to that. But you know, going through that drought also makes you stronger. We also know in agriculture what that means to us, and there's always going to be good times and bad times when you're in agriculture. And sometimes I truly believe it makes us better at what we do. But I also want to say the hardworking men and women of Missouri endured, overcome those conditions. Combating the drought was a collaborative effort between the state, local communities, and our farmers. And I want to thank members of the Drought Assessment Committee. And I know Blake just spoke about that, but I want to talk about the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Conservation. One of the things I first did when this occurred, I asked my directors, I said, okay, here's the situation. How do we unite? How do we come together? And how do we help with the situation? But I need you all working together. I need you to bring your A game. I need you to tell me what you can do. And I just want to thank everyone that was involved with that. I know a lot of my directors are here today, but I just want to thank them so much. And you don't know, but I want to tell you this morning how hard they worked together to make it, to be able to where we could deal with one of the worst drought situations we've had in our state. And I thank every one of them for that assessment team and for all of you that are being here today. Thank you very much for what you did. Our farmers are the backbone of our state. Agriculture is the #1 industry. And as Missourians, we owe it to our agriculture community to continue to help this industry flourish. President Trump last week locked in a big win for farmers and ranchers with the Mexico and the Canadian trade deal, despite skeptics saying that the NAFTA could never be fixed. The President Trump's leadership, we will soon have in place the support of the 21st century innovation in agriculture and biotechnology. It is great that we have a president who has continued to deliver on promises made to bring that bold and necessary reform to our country. And just this weekend, the news broke about the China situation with that deal opening up, and it looks very promising to what's going to happen there and how much that will mean for our economy and how much that will mean for the state of Missouri. And I also want to talk about, when speaking of the economy, some things I want to say about the state and a lot of the hard-working people that are in our state, what they're doing for us as individuals. But just 2 weeks ago, Missouri reached its lowest unemployment rate in over 2 decades at 3.1 in the state of Missouri. During that time, the short period of time that I've been governor, over 10,000 new jobs have come to our state of Missouri. And why is that important to us? That means our young men and women have an opportunity to stay within the states of Missouri to finish their careers, and that's why those are so important when it comes to those jobs. We are second in the United States of America on corporate income tax. Now, when you think of that, how does that affect us when I say corporate income tax? Well, first of all, each one of you farmers that are out there, you are a business. Some of you are corporations, but you're a business entity in the state of Missouri. Why is that important? Let me just highlight a few things of why that's important and what has happened to our state since that's occurred. There's a new Dollar Tree distribution center up at Warrensburg, Missouri that added 300 to 400 jobs to the state of Missouri. CVS just opened up a new distribution center up at Liberty, Missouri. Another 500 jobs on the way to the state of Missouri. And if you look at Square, a high technology company out of St. Louis region, but their headquarters are in San Francisco. They're going to be moving those headquarters to the state of Missouri. And that's important for us when it comes to technology in this state. The NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, will be adding 3,100 new jobs and making our state one of their headquarters in the near future. Boeing in St. Louis, Missouri, just signed a contract with the federal government for $16 billion. $16 billion. And to put that in farmer's term or layman's term, that's a contract worth probably 15 to 20 years of service to the state of Missouri. And when you look at those subcontractors that will come out from that will mean jobs all across our state that will have the opportunity to do that. That's why that's important to us, because that means more jobs, more opportunities for our young men and women in this state. Recently, I have met with the United States Department of Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue, looking at ways to better serve our farmers in rural areas and identify secondary markets to expand Missouri trade and opportunities. One aspect we are focused on helping with tearing down the concrete walls in Washington, D.C., and relocating parts of the U.S. Department of Agriculture to the heartland of America so that they can better understand our way of life and the challenges we face as farmers. To have that opportunity to bring part of that agency to the state of Missouri will be huge if we can get that done. And I want to thank Christiane, my director, for what a job she's doing. She has been working closely. They've been working closely with Director Chin and the Missouri Department of Agriculture to make this a reality, along with many other organizations, Farm Bureau, our universities, to make this happen. Missouri is in the crossroads of the United States of America. We have every opportunity to have that here in the state of Missouri. I also want to talk about Director Chin for just a second at the Missouri Department of Agriculture for what they're doing to be able to make this a reality for us as farmers. I asked all the departments, when I first went in there, I met with all the cabinet members. One, I asked them to streamline their budgets to make sure that we're actually spending money where it needs to be spent. Two, before, in the current administration, which they started, just to cut the red tape, to cut the bureaucracy of government for agriculture. And I just want to share this with you. The Department of Agriculture has nearly 340 regulations, and with Director Chin's leadership, we are on track to eliminate over 40% of harmful regulations, getting government out of our way and keep continuing our efforts to restore rights to our farmers and ranchers. So almost over half of those regulations are going to be gone. We are also working with the Department of Agriculture, finding solutions to provide safe and quality water for our rural areas. During the drought that I mentioned earlier, in one community alone, we were 160 days away from running out of safe drinking water. If you can imagine in today's time, and you just think where all we come from, that you could actually be out of water in 160 days is unacceptable, and we got to find solutions to that. I've asked all of you here today to join me as we focus on the future of our industry in both rural infrastructure and our agriculture workforce. One way we can move forward is by bringing increased access and high-speed broadband to rural areas of Missouri. And let me tell you one, thank you. And let me tell you one thing I didn't realize till I became governor. And one of the things that I aim to fix. I don't know what accomplishments I'll have at the end of the day, but I hope this is one I will have. But there are still 12 schools in the state of Missouri that does not have access to broadband. Can you imagine that? 12 of our schools in our state where our students don't have the ability to have broadband in their schools. We, as Missourians, from all over this state, need to unite. I need to do my part as governor, and I need to figure out a solution to get all of the schools where they have access to broadband and those young men and women have a chance for the workforce and the future of our state. The success of tomorrow's farmer hinges upon the ability to connect to the digital world. As we are making progress, the teams at the Department of Economic Development have laid out a state broadband implementation plan through the new Office of Broadband. And the FCC recently announced $254 million in funds for Missouri's broadband implementation. And I also want to thank Senator Blunt. I seen him out there earlier, I don't know where he is, but Senator Blunt, with his leadership, brought that money back to Missouri, and I want to thank him, and we all owe him a great deal of thanks for what he done. And we are working closely with our schools to improve education opportunities for the next generation. As farm technology continues to advance, we must be focused on ensuring to meet the workforce demands of tomorrow. By creating STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and math, throughout the state, we will be providing students with more opportunities to acquire these skills necessary to be successful. Missouri farmers are resilient. We've faced and tackled many problems, but we have still a lot to be grateful for. We are a state full of problem solvers and hard workers, and many of you here today, thanks to your leadership and efforts to prepare, will we be ready again when the next challenges arise. Tackling these challenges is what unites us together, because we know we are stronger when we work together as one. As we prepare for what lies ahead, I know that whatever we may face in the future, it is through our relationships that will help us prevail. One thing I do know about being a farmer, about having an ag background, is about where we all come from, and about how we grew up, and about the values we learned as young men and young women, and how important that was to get us to where we're at today. Many times you hear me speak, and I'll continue to say these things because I think it is so important for all of us to understand the future of our state. But the only reason that we're here today is because what people have done before us to give us the ability to preserve agriculture, to preserve a way of life, whether it's getting on a school bus on a gravel road, whether it's feeding hay in the wintertime, whether it's trying to figure out how you do drought, how you sustain as farmers in this state. But I tell you, we have the opportunity, we do, me and you, to be able to pass down to the next generations even a better way of life, to be farmers, to use technology to its advantages, to make sure that Missouri is a leader not just in the United States of America, but in the world, that we have the opportunity, because there is no better place in the United States than where we sit in the crossroads of America. We have that opportunity. We have the opportunity to be leaders. We have the opportunity to set forth the example for other states, for other nations. And I truly believe that burden lies upon our shoulders to make sure we do that. And the only reason we're here today is because what people have done before us, what our parents have done, what our grandparents have done, and what our forefathers have done. And what they have passed down from generation to generation is important. And I will keep stressing how important that is, because now it is our time to pass down to the next generation the same opportunities that we've been given. Missouri's future is bright. It is extremely bright. The economy looks good. But if you want these young men and women to stay within the borders of the state of Missouri, we must be leaders. I often say being a leader is not being the best. Being a leader is about making people around you better. That's what makes good leaders. And we have the opportunity to be farmers. We have the opportunity to showcase agriculture in our state and truly to make people around us better. It is up to us to be able to do that. I heard a young man not too long ago say a little phrase that caught with me. He was a young man that had a troubled life, to say the least, had went through a lot of things in his life. And he said there was 10 words to him that was very important. There was 2-letter words, 10 words that were very important, and how things occurred and how he changed his life around. And he said, if it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me. And I will tell you, if it is to be, it is up to us. It is an honor and privilege to be the 57th governor of the state of Missouri. God bless you, God bless the great state of Missouri, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you.